Yeah.
All right, so it's 12:01. Looks like some more people have joined us, so I will go ahead and get us started. So welcome everybody to today's webinar. I'm Meg Amos. I'm a marketing strategy manager here at Results Repeat. For those of you that don't know us or it's your first time joining us, we are a digital marketing agency. We provide search engine optimization, which is what Chris is going to talk about today, digital advertising, and we also do web design and development. And we also do conversion rate optimization. So we work with clients in B2B, B2C, and e-commerce. I'm really excited about this presentation. Chris here is going to talk about 6 SEO marketing tips that will help boost web traffic. So I just wanted to first thank everybody for joining us today and go over a few quick housekeeping items. So the presentation is being recorded. All attendees will receive a copy of the slide deck and the recording after the session. And lastly, if you have questions that come up for you during the course of the presentation, just use the chat feature and ask them. At the end, we'll reserve some time to go over Q&A, so we'll get your questions answered there. We do have a lot of good info to squeeze into about 20 minutes or so. So just a really quick introduction to Chris. Chris Bournazos is a SEO account manager here at Results Repeat. He's been with us almost 4 years. And today he's going to talk about tips that any marketer can take advantage of. So like I said, feel free to ask questions along the way. And with that, I will hand it over to Chris to get started.
All right. Well, thanks, Meg. And I'll mirror a little bit what Meg said. So thank you, everybody, for hopping on. As she mentioned, my name is Chris Bournazos. I've been with Results Repeat for coming up on 4 years. A little bit background into me. Before coming to RR and working here, I had a pretty hefty background into sports and specifically hockey. So, I grew up in Chicago before moving out here to the Philadelphia area where I live now. I worked for a sports marketing agency back in Chicago that focused on sports sponsorships. As I made my way out here, I got a little bit more background into sales and marketing. I was working in ticket sales for the Philadelphia Flyers. And, I've also had a variety of, coaching gigs and jobs, hockey coaching jobs throughout that process as well. So that's just a little bit of background, into me. But, currently I'm an SEO account manager, and we're going to be going over 6 SEO marketing tips to boost your web traffic. So, before jumping into anything, if you're relatively new and SEO is unknown to you, drop a 1 in the chat. If it's something that's you do maybe not on a day-to-day basis, but it's part of your role, drop a 2 in the chat. And then, if SEO or digital marketing is something that you do on a day-to-day basis, it's the bulk of your job, drop a 3 in the chat. So with that being said, before we get into the agenda, speaking on SEO specifically, for those who are a little bit unknown, SEO or search engine optimization is the practice or process of modifying a website, to increase its visibility in search results, to enhance the quantity and quality of users to your website. And there are, dozens of SEO strategies that we here at Results Repeat put in place. And a lot of these strategies are fluid. They're not going to be a set it and forget it. It's not a one-time thing. There are a variety of things that go into a successful SEO campaign. So as we get into the agenda and some of these tips, you'll notice kind of an underlying theme of a lot of these, which are, knowing who your target audience is and keeping their user experience in mind throughout each of these tips. So to touch on that, if you don't know who your target audience is, that's going to be step 1. If you're trying to go through a lot of these tips, not knowing who your target audience is, it's kind of like throwing a dart at a dartboard blindfolded and hoping it hits the bullseye. So, if you're, a marketing director at a company, or if you work at an agency like we do, the best way to figure out who that audience is to look at your current customer base. That's going to provide you the most value as to, who's engaging with your brand, who's purchasing your products or services, But another way to do that, to get a little bit deeper into it, is to take a look at the what we call the demographics report in Google Analytics. So this will give you a quick glance as to some top level demographics such as age, gender, where some of your users are located who are coming to your website. If you're a local business, chances are, a lot of those users are going to be within your target market. But if you are a company that does business on a regional or national level, finding out where a lot of or the bulk of those users are coming from can be extremely beneficial. So as we get into today, we're going to talk about some tools for keyword research, conducting competitor analyses, optimizing your Google business profile, optimizing content on the core pages of your website. We're going to talk about a little bit of some blogging best practices, and then we'll wrap it up talking about how you can utilize social media as part of your SEO strategy. And then, finally, we'll end with a little bit of a Q&A. So to start off, the first tip that we're going to talk about is keyword research. So again, if you're new, keyword research is the process of finding and analyzing search terms that people enter into search engines with the goal of using that data for a specific purpose. In this sense, it's most likely going to be for search engine optimization or some type of a general marketing. If you want to drive traffic, the right traffic to your website, you have to optimize your website with relevant keywords for your business, for your products, for your services. And there are hundreds of tools that you can use to conduct keyword research. One of my colleagues, Kevin Whitbeck, actually did a lunch and learn talking about a lot of free tools. So if you want to check that out, it's on our YouTube page. But here at Results Repeat, we like to utilize two main ones, one of which is SEMrush or SEMrush, and the second is Google Search Console. So SEMrush will give you a really, really good overall glance at your overall organic landscape, but it will also give you the ability to do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the data behind these keywords, such as volume, such as keyword difficulty. Obviously this is SEO focused, but if you're looking for more paid data, it'll give you some data on cost per click as well. Google Search Console, on the other hand, is a tool that gives you the ability to see the queries or the keywords that your audience, users who come to your website, are actually using to find your website. So we like to use these, tandem in hand to start crafting up what we call a keyword list or an initial keyword list. So as we, craft up and create a keyword list, if you're a marketer, if you're an SEOer, a couple of these terms are probably going to sound familiar to you, but the first thing that we take a look at are short tail versus long tail keywords. And, short tail keywords are, going to be your seed keywords, your main keywords for whatever the product or service that your business or company provides. Typically, they're going to be the keywords that garner the most amount of search volume on a monthly basis, but they're also going to be the keywords that are going to be a little bit harder to rank for. As opposed to long tail keywords, these are keywords that, can range anywhere from, 3 to 5 to more words. They're going to be, a little bit more specific to a product or service. And they're going to represent somebody, who's a little bit further down, if we're talking about from a marketing funnel perspective, who's a little bit further down that marketing funnel, who are looking for not just general information or general research. Another thing to keep in mind when doing keyword research is the intent of that search phrase or that query. Oftentimes, you don't just want to choose keywords to choose keywords. You want to choose them with the right intent in mind, which I'll touch on in a little bit. And then finally, when conducting keyword research, it's extremely important, and I think forgotten a lot, to analyze what we call SERPs, or search engine results pages. So, any query or every query is going to, display a little bit different of a results page. Some might be a little bit heavier on advertisements. Some might be a little bit more local focused. Some queries might garner a lot of featured snippets along with your organic results. So seeing how a search looks for any given key phrase is going to be extremely important. So as we move on here, just a little bit of some visuals to conceptualize what I just said. My wife and I are in the process, or somewhat in the process, of trying to build out a home gym. So a lot of this stuff is stuff that I'm currently researching, and figured it was, kind of do what you know type thing. So, so gym equipment, as you can see on the image on the left-hand side, gym equipment is going to be, for example, that's going to be your short tail or your seed keyword. It's a very general type keyword that's going to garner a lot of volume, and this represents just somebody who's in the basic stages of research of gym equipment. But as you can see in the dropdown, Google also suggests, a few other keywords related to gym equipment. So gym equipment for sale, gym equipment near me, gym equipment brands. Those are all a little bit more examples of long tail keywords, where, if you're looking at it specifically for gym equipment for sale, as you can see on the right-hand side, that's a very, from an intent perspective, a transactional type keyword. People, if a user searches that, they are, in the market for buying gym equipment. So, with that being said, the three other types of intent keywords are commercial, informational, and navigational. And a couple of examples, one I already mentioned, gym equipment. That's very commercial, very general. Again, there's going to be a lot of information regarding just general gym equipment. The second, informational, how to build a home gym. Somebody is, searching for or doing research on the best practices or equipment to build out a home gym. And then the final one, which is navigational. If any of you are familiar with working out or gym equipment, Rogue is a brand. So if somebody were to search for Rogue gym equipment, they're trying to find a specific web page regarding that particular type of gym equipment. So it is extremely important to keep all of these things in mind when conducting your keyword research. And that's going to help you craft up the best possible lists of short tail keywords with higher volume, longer tail keywords that are a little bit more specific and niche, but a little bit easier to rank for as well. So moving on, the next tip is conducting a competitor or competitive analysis. And a lot of times this can be done in tandem with your initial keyword research, but oftentimes it's done as a little bit further down the road SEO strategy. Either there isn't a wrong or a right way to do it. It's just whatever you need at that time. But an SEO competitive analysis is the process of identifying strengths and weaknesses of you and your competitors. So one of the biggest things that I see, being an SEO or working at an agency, is that understanding that there can potentially be a gap between a company's, in market or in real life competitors versus their competitors in the search space. So, and what I mean by that is, just because, there's a company that offers similar products or services to you doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be your competitors, online or in the digital space, because if they're not doing any type of online marketing, SEO, or paid ads, they're not going to garner any of those keywords that you're going to want to rank for. So it's important to keep that in mind as you're going through a competitive research. One of the biggest tools that I like to use and that we like to use here at Results Repeat is a tool within SEMrush, and it's called the Keyword Gap tool, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But this allows you to look at your website and websites of competitors and get a really good and quick glance of how many keywords you're ranking for, how many keywords your competitors are ranking for. And, you can see the gap of, if there's, if you're missing out on keywords, if there's opportunities to vie after other keywords, it'll give you a really quick glance as to some of those opportunities. Similar to keyword research, using SERPs or search engine results pages again to your advantage. If you have a keyword or a couple of keywords that that you want to try to rank for, throw them into a search engine and see what the top 3 organic results are. They might not necessarily be your competitors, but you can kind of get a feel for how they're optimizing for that page, what keywords are going after, what the content on the page looks like, and get a really good feel for how that's going to look. And then another thing that you want to do within SEMrush is to analyze the various types of content that your competitors are creating. So this will give you a really good idea of what your competitors are doing and how they're performing. And it'll give you a good idea to think about questions of, can we create similar pieces of content that may be a little bit more relevant to your business? Can we expand on can we expand on that content to make it a little bit more valuable to the user? So seeing how your competitor's content is ranking is extremely important. So a couple of these screenshots or images talk to a couple of the tools that I just mentioned. And again, they're going back to that like gym equipment or home gym topic that I was talking about. The root domain, as you can see here, you can compare up to 4 different competitors. This first one would be considered your own website. So I put in Rogue Fitness or Rogue Equipment, which is one of the leaders. And then I added in a couple of competitors. Now from here, you can choose to compare the entire root domain, or you can choose to take a look at just a specific URL as well, if you want to get a little bit more specific. But you can also choose to look at organic keywords, paid keywords, or any type of Google Shopping, PLA type keywords. And the second image here is you can get a quick glance at what keywords you're missing out on, or what keywords are a little bit weak that your competitors are ranking better than you for. So, you can pull those out, and those are the keywords that you're going to want to focus on a little bit. To see like, okay, well, hey, our competitor is ranking for this. This is relevant to our business. We should probably start trying to rank for this. So it gives a really good quick glance as to, not only how you are performing, but also how your competitors are performing. So, moving on, tip number 3, kind of going away from keyword research, competitive research. We're going to talk a little bit about Google Business Profile. So if you are a local business and you do not already have a Google listing, I urge you to stop what you're doing and create one now, because you're missing out on a lot of traffic and a lot of potential customers. So, Google Business Profile, now, it had previously been called, if you're familiar with it, Google My Business. So, Google rebranded it a little while back. I think all of us are still getting used to calling it GBP versus GMB. But the first thing to take a look at is, do you have a listing and is it claimed? to the right here, you can see a quick snippet of, our company's local listing or Google listing. So, if you do have one, if it's claimed, the first step is making sure that the top level contact information is accurate. So, in marketing and SEO, we call it the NAP information. I expanded it a little bit to call it NAP-U. So that's your business name, your address, your phone number, and your URL. The reason that I put URL in there is because, we have the opportunity to be able to track how many users are entering your website from your Google listing. So optimizing that or keeping that top of mind to start off with is going to be huge. A couple other things to keep in mind for optimizing your Google listing is working on creating posts regularly. These can range anywhere from highlighting a product or service, talking about any type of industry trends. At Results Repeat, we work with a lot of multifamily apartment marketing businesses. So highlighting any type of floor plan specials, rent specials, those are all great ideas for posts, and you want to do it regularly. The next would be being mindful of reviews. So, one thing that your target audience or your potential customers are looking at when they look into your business, your company, is the reviews that you have on some of these citation sites, and Google is going to be their biggest one. So making sure that you're responding to reviews, in a good way. If it's a negative review, don't be combative. And you want to be able to get a good sense of who's reviewing, how many reviews you have, and making sure that you're responding to each and every review, positive or negative. The next, which is something that I touched on already, which is UTM tagging. This is just a little snippet of code that we can add to a URL to better track users coming into your website from your Google listing. This makes it super easy when we're pulling out data from Google Analytics to see, like, okay, you had this many users enter your website from your Google listing. So the more data you have, the more informed decisions that you can make. And then the final aspect of utilizing and optimizing your Google business profile is using products or services to your advantage. So there are tools within Google, the Google business profile, that allow you to highlight products or services if you are a product or service-based business, to give users a highlight of some of those top level products that you offer. Going back to multifamily apartment marketing, this is an opportunity to highlight the various floor plans that you offer as well. So you want to take advantage of all of these tools within GBP, and also it's free, so you don't have to pay for it. It's completely free to use, and typically it's going to be a great source of traffic for you if you are a local business. All right, moving on here. Tip number 4. So after you've done your initial keyword research, competitor research, it's now time to use that, keyword list that you created to optimize the core pages of your website. So core pages, a little bit different than your blog posts, are going to obviously typically garner the most traffic to your website. And you can think about it in a way of, these are going to be the pages that are going to be in your main navigation, the high level pages that you want people to come to and get the information they need to get. So some of the tips on optimizing your on-page content is to craft up and create engaging title tags and meta descriptions. Make sure that you have a good hierarchy and structure of headings, your H1s, your H2s, your H3s, which I will touch on in a little bit. You want to create a internal linking structure. So if you have other pages or products or services that are relevant to that particular product, you want to link out to them to give the user a little bit more information that they can click to and to continue their process of navigating through your site. When we're talking about internal linking, you don't just want to internally link words to link words. You want to give that user an idea of where that internal link is going to take them. Because if they click on it and it takes them to a page that they're not looking for at all, that's not good, and it doesn't promote a good user experience. And then the last tip for on-page content is creating engaging calls to actions that stand out. So typically, when a user comes to your website as a business or a company, you're going to want them to take an action to contact you or to purchase a product. So you want to make those calls to actions stand out on the page. So whether it's filling out a form, it's calling you, it's downloading a an ebook or a PDF, requesting a demo. Make those calls to actions highlighted on your page so the user can see them and easily find them. Moving on here. So this is, again, just a couple of images to give you a little bit more of a visual. So this is just a quick snippet of our result in a search engine results page. So the highlighted section here is what's considered your title tag. So as you can see, results repeat, digital marketing agency, website design, SEO. And then the description underneath it is what's called your meta description. So this is a great opportunity to provide a small snippet as to, what your company does, what the page is about. And it also gives you an opportunity to incorporate a keyword in there in a natural and relevant sense. So, and then the second part that I touched on the last slide, which was your heading structure. So your H1, if you're a seasoned SEO or a marketer, is going to be, the overall topic of your page. So that's going to want to be the point where you're including keywords or your target keyword for that page. And then moving on, you have your H2, your H3, which are just subtopics of the overall main topic. So, most of the time you only want one H1 for a page. But there are instances that we've seen where pages have a couple H1s. But you can have as many H2s or H3s as you want, depending on how you want to deliver that content to the user. All right, tip number 5, getting to the end here. So blog content. As I mentioned, blog content is a lot different than your on-page content. Well, it potentially can still garner a lot of traffic. These are going to be the topics and keywords that you find during your initial keyword stage. So when you're doing your keyword research and your competitive analysis, you want to keep in mind certain or potential opportunities for blog topics. So most of the time, and a really good starting point to figuring out blog topics is keeping an eye out for keywords that, or keeping an eye out for question keywords. Those are going to be your keywords, your who, why, when, where, and what. So those are all questions being asked by people relating to a product or service that you offer. So as you're going through that, a good process or practice that we like to do is we like to pull out those keywords, to hold on to use them, to use a little bit down the line for blog topics. So with that in mind, how often should you be doing blog content? The easy answer to that is it's going to vary, depending on your industry and how big your business is and how much resources you have to create content. It can be once a month, it can be bi-weekly, once a quarter, but again, it's going to vary. Point number 2, what kind of content should you be creating? Again, there are a few points that you want to, focus on. Is you want to try to create content for all customers in the marketing funnel. As I touched on earlier, those like seed keywords, those top level research keywords are going to be just as important as, the keywords that are a little bit longer, or for people who are a little bit further down the line in your marketing funnel. The home gym equipment for sale, or the gym equipment for sale type keywords are going to be just as important as your top level keywords. And then, you want to keep in mind, what are your users searching for? What are their pain points? What questions are they asking? Can you help answer those questions, with a product or service related to your business? And then another great idea for content is to highlight a product or service. If you have a product or service that you want to highlight and you want to get out there, talk about that. Talk about its benefits. Talk about how it can help with a potential user's or customer's pain points. So those are all great tips on, creating your blog content. And then finally, which we'll touch on in just a quick second, is, you want to promote your content. So once you're done doing the research, writing up your content, and, publishing that content, don't just let it sit there. You want to promote that content to your users and get as much traffic to that as you possibly can. And then tip number 6, 6 and final, utilizing social media and SEO and how they can work together. So this is going to be more on the lines of utilizing SEO and social media for a lot of your blog topics. So, chances are, as I mentioned, if you're going through the process of, researching content topics, creating really high quality content, you don't just want to let it sit there and hope for the best. You have to be proactive in promoting your content, and a great opportunity for that is social media, because chances are your target audience, the customers that you want to reach, are consuming tons of content daily via social media, whether it's, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. They're on those platforms consuming content. So it's going to make sense that you want to try to promote your content on those platforms to them. So not only do you want to try to, push your content, this also can help enhance your brand reputation and authority. So, having that consistent brand messaging and brand authority across different platforms, from your website to your social channels, is extremely important. And then finally, similar to Google My Business, it allows you to create link opportunities. And, this is something, that in theory sounds easy, but it's really all going to depend on the algorithms of some of those social platforms, and if they choose to, share your content. But anytime that you create a post on LinkedIn or on Instagram, you want to include a link with UTMs, similar to Google, that you can track, and push traffic back to your website. So, all of these need to work hand in hand. And I know, for one thing, if, I see content all the time that I consume, that I go through personally. I'm like, oh, like, this is really good content. And, sometimes it's promoted very well. Other times it's just stuff that I stumble upon. But, take the time to be proactive to promote your content. It's going to be extremely important, and it's going to help you in the long run. And with that being said, just kind of wrapping it all up. So talking about, 6, top level tips for to increase your web traffic, starting with, an in-depth keyword research and a competitor analysis. Making sure that you're using that keyword research to optimize the core pages of your website to drive traffic and increase ranking. Utilizing Google Business Profile to its full advantage. Create engaging blog content, incorporating social media into your SEO. And then finally, measuring your results, tracking your progress via Google Analytics. Anytime that you're making bigger changes to your website, updating title tags and meta descriptions, creating brand new blog pages, you have to keep an eye on and measure, how users are engaging with your website. What are going to be your top pages? What's the behavior like for users who enter your website? Where are they potentially leaving your website? And there are tons of other things that you want to keep in mind, but absolutely track your progress. And with that being said, I will open it up to any type of questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. That was a really great overview. Hopefully people can, take a couple of those tactics and take them back and apply. I know we're a little over time, so if anyone does have to jump off, don't worry, you'll get the recording. But if you want to stick around, we do have a few questions that came in, so I'm going to go ahead and read them off.
Yep.
First question was SEMrush versus Yoast.
SEMrush versus Yoast was that?
That was the question. Yes.
That was the question. So Yoast is a plugin that we use on a lot of WordPress sites. I personally like to use SEMrush for a lot of different things, not just for keyword research, but for competitive analysis, overall deeper dive into content topics, and then it also allows us to create really good audits as well for any type of client. So SEMrush is a tool that I use day in and day out.
So I think Wendy's giving some more clarity around the question. How are they the same and how are they different? And she did have a follow-up remark, which might not be related, but it might help provide some context, is that we have a directory website. So she wants to understand the importance of every site being or every page being SEO optimized. So I guess Yoast is in the background that doesn't do a lot of research. It kind of just populates, right? Whereas SEMrush, you can do more of the research and the competitive analysis.
Yeah. So Yoast is something that's in the background that's going to be an area where you can, optimize your title tag and meta description for any given individual page. But SEMrush is the tool where you're going to want to utilize to do the research so you can craft and create those title tags and meta descriptions. But I believe you said her name was Wendy. Wendy, I'd love to get a little bit more kind of information on what you mean and what you're looking for. And if you want to reach out to Meg, we can definitely provide a little bit more of a answer and an analysis for that.
Yeah, feel free to reach out after. I'll drop my email at the end. And let's see, we have another question here. Would you please repeat the explanation of UTM tagging mentioned both on the Google Business Profile and social media tips?
Yeah, absolutely. So, sorry I went through that kind of quick, but so UTM tagging is the process of adding a small snippet of code to the end of a URL. So this will help you to find the source, whether that's Google or if it's a social platform, Twitter, the medium, organic, paid, referral, and then if you want to get a little bit more specific, the campaign as well. So if you want to have individual campaigns to track a little bit better in Google Analytics, that's the process of using UTMs. So for example, if I wanted to add UTM to just the main website on your Google listing, there's tools that we can, the tools that we have and that we can use to quickly create UTMs. But for Google Business, it's, the source would be Google, the medium would be organic, and then the campaign would be, in the past, we always used to use GMB, but if you're doing it new, you could use GBP. So that way you can filter out in Google Analytics that these people are coming to your site organically, but they're coming in from your Google My Business or Google Business Profile listing.
I just dropped a link in the chat, but that's what I've used to build out the UTM builder. Is it'll kind of just walk you through. It'll show you where to populate those fields that Chris just mentioned, and then it'll auto generate a URL for you. So if you want to use that, that's kind of like my go-to. Let's see what else we have time for. Maybe one more.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So when using internal linking, is there a maximum amount of words to use for the anchor text?
So yes and no. You want that internal link to be as descriptive as possible. So, and you want to provide that user an idea of where that internal link is taking them. So if you have an internal link of, say, on the word here, having an internal link on the word here isn't really going to provide any type of information to that user. So you want to try to very best incorporate, if possible, keywords or an idea of where that page is taking them. So for example, I mentioned throughout the presentation, we do a lot of work with apartment marketing and multifamily marketing. So say that a user comes to your website and they navigate to your floor plans page. If you want to have an internal link to another core page of your website, say the amenities page, that is a word that you want to include within your internal link to make it a little bit more descriptive. And it can be a little bit longer. It doesn't just have to be amenities. It can be, luxury amenities, top level, top notch amenities. So the more information that you can give them without it being, an entire string of 10 words, the better.
Great. Well, Chris, thank you so much for this overview. Thank you everybody for coming. And like I said, we will send out the slide deck and the recording shortly. And if you have any questions that came up for you over this presentation, feel free to reach out to us. I dropped my email in the chat. You can also reach out to us on the website through our contact us form. But hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Wednesday.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Wednesday.